What's up, everybody? It is a cozy Tuesday evening and the tail end of a nearly 10-hour cast. Unexpected. What happened was I kind of got on with the intention to just finish Act 3, and we did that. And then I started, I found a team, random online matchmaking, um, took some attempts because I was playing alone several times in a row. There just wasn't a lot of people on. But eventually I found a team and was able to get through the latter portion of Act 3. Okay, that video is up. Those highlights are up. I attempted to get into Act 4. Failed attempt after failed attempt. There are some guys that I have played with. They are able to use a fourth. And I helped them out with some stuff. We played together. And so they were on and they pulled me in. Somebody needed help through the same thing that I just did. So the latter portion of Act 3, and then afterwards they flipped it around and then they helped me get my Act 4. Was able to unlock my SWAT with Doc, which is pretty cool. And now cred, right? Really nice. Okay, well earned. 1 out of 8 done, finito. Okay. Now, I had been saying that I was going to reveal the deck that I use after I'd gotten through it, which kind of supports my play style, and I'll try to go through the cards and explain why I went through them. I'll say that I don't believe that this is the meta. It's just my play style, and it has something that has served in just about every act, and I felt pretty confident with it. A couple of things to note is I really had to know what I was not doing, right? So like I'm not trying to be half a melee. I'm not trying to do long range damage. I'm not trying to be super fast. As a healer, in order to heal effectively, I'm trusting that the other members of my team, whatever role that they're playing, that they've got it covered. Basically, my cat's going crazy. Basically, the idea is I kind of by keeping them alive, that's how I keep the offense up. You know, by keeping them alive, by keeping them in the game, I keep them aggressive, I keep them moving forward, and I keep them, pushing back against the enemy. And other than that, I try to keep myself out of trouble. If I could grab a silencer for my weapon, if I could sometimes grab a melee weapon just so that I wouldn't be drawing a lot of attention to myself, I would do that. I often, I would definitely try to combine my fire, but I'm not there necessarily chasing mobs down, trying to do that. I'm keeping like trying to finish mobs off or finish off mutants. I'm definitely trying to run out of the way first, because other people are going to step up and try to finish off those mobs and take those kills. That means that if I were playing, as Holly, obviously I'm not, like my job is kind of like changing. It's like sticking close to the team and making sure I'm absorbing the hordes as best as possible. If I'm Jim or Walker, then like obviously I'm trying to put in the uppermost ranged offense, and there's more to that. It's like where you stand in the group. These things I'm going to figure out as I play, and it might seem obvious, but there are some subtleties. As Doc, when I tried to heal, let's say, my bots, it was functional in Vanguard and in Veteran, but it became unwieldy. It became impractical in Nightmare difficulty. It was just too much, hit too hard, and the bots couldn't respond. Their jankiness was their downfall. So this is the build here. Without further ado, right? The first card was to find support items, because whether I'm applying it or somebody else is applying it, we just need more of them on the field. Doc has increased healing efficiency and increased trauma resistance. So right away, if I'm healing, I'm already applying a stronger heal. And if you have a Doc that has a proper Doc build, and just about any Doc build that allows them to just basically heal and support effectively, then then you want to be passing Doc your bandages in between skirmishes, right? You want to be feeding them so that this way they can maximize the use of whatever bandages you have, and that'll make your bandages last longer, right? The next one was 15% healing efficiency, which immediately improves that, right? And when I use medical accessory, you gain 15% move speed for 15 seconds. 15 seconds is actually a decent amount of time. And in the middle of a fight, which is where you need to be fast mostly, that's really good because you're zooming around doing triage. You know what I'm saying? So somebody takes a big hit, they get clear, you go and you heal them. Somebody, you just res somebody, support presumably that improved, that heal is incorporated, the medical accessory, right? So I think defibrillator is included. You need to be able to like bring them up and then back away, so that's usually when I need speed. I need speed when the group is fighting, not sprinting. I just need enough speed to get in and then back out so that they can stay in the fight. And this like I have cross trainers, but they come much later on. A secondary sort of mobility card, but not before I get all the other things that I feel are necessary to do my job. Because medical expert for the emergency purpose of me having to move in the middle of a skirmish is enough. Um, but this makes it difficult for me in sort of like some free running racing like kind of a moment. So like between the two houses in abandoned or up the mine shaft or sometimes in farther fields. If like any areas where you have to run like a circuit. Doc, I'm much better behind cover in, let's say, an enclosed room with a melee at the door than I am just kiting mobs. Like, this is not that build. I've seen some docs that do kind of like a hybrid where they're able to outpace the enemy and have good heals, but I don't know what they're sacrificing in that situation. I picked up Bounty Hunter because when you or your team kills a mutation, so I had to put some card in here, and I don't have to be the one killing the mutation in order to get it. So when things are really busy, especially on Nightmare difficulty, that's an extra 300 per level. And sometimes if I'm conscious of that, then I can contribute that towards the overall savings of the team. Granted, I'm not trying to like stack fortune cards, but I am trying to assist anybody who is. So that means if I can keep that in my mind, that means that like 300 per level, especially for the checkpoints that are 4 or 5 missions in Nightmare. By like in the very beginning, I should be able to help afford an upgrade, and by the end, I should be able to contribute greatly towards an upgrade. So I'm keeping that in mind for the upgrades. It's not for heals because I'm gonna find heals out in the field. It's for to make sure that we're getting those team upgrades because they're so essential. And when no one has money cards, you really feel it. So I feel like I could squeeze in a heal card there. Needs of the Many adds 1 team extra life, and that's super important on Nightmare, especially in the beginning levels of each section where there's like no deck and everything's common, like common cards, common weapons, or rather common weapons and stuff. Because especially in matchmaking, people are still gelling together, and one person goes down, that's it. That extra life it allows us to stay in the fight longer and allows people to have more time to figure out like their flow. Later on, it's just nice to have like an extra life to keep people up during the heavy heavy combat scenarios. But specifically, it's getting off to a stronger start. It's being more resilient in the beginning because people probably will go down. Nightmare is more intense right off the cuff, So I felt like that was important to have early. And life insurance, which gives me an extra life and is the beginning of my reduction of in-cap trauma to the team. This adds to Doc's innate trauma resistance, right? So this is reduced incapacitation trauma, and then there's trauma resistance. Now there's a little bit of a difference between the two, I think. Every time you get hit, you take trauma damage, and Doc has resistance to that. Every time you go down and you get brought up, you get a big chunk of trauma damage taken to your maximum health. So reducing how much that is when you get incapacitated is important, especially early on, because you're trying to get off to a better start, and you don't want to be taking such big chunks of your health out when you're just trying to get your stuff together in those first 2 or 3 missions of the chapter. And certainly it's good not to have that eating away at you, like when you're towards the latter part, the last 4 or 5 missions of the chapter, the fourth and fifth mission of the chapter rather. 50% use speed and heals teammates for an additional 20 health when you revive them. So when you revive them, it doesn't always get their health back, but the use speed really here is to counter the negative 50% use speed that the massive healing efficiency card plays in, which comes right after. And I think if you were to increase your use speed by 50, so you have 150, and then reduce that by 50%, then that leaves you with so like you had let's say 100, then you get, so if you reduce it, you would get 50% use speed, right? If you reduce it by half. So by raising it up to 120, my tinfoil theory, I'm sorry, 150, my tinfoil theory, that rather than reduce it to 50%, I reduce it to 75%, which is still not bad use speed, rather than 50%. So you raise it and then you bring it down by half, and it's still greater than you would if you had just brought it down by half. It's very important to make sure I get the bonus before I get the detractor here. Then I have this one, healing a teammate also applies 50% of the effect to you. What's great about this, that with the healing efficiency, and with me staying out of the way, like not in the front line and not in the back, and watching where I'm standing and stuff like that. What's great about this is that it pretty much means I don't have to worry about bandaging myself most of the time. Like just by focusing on healing the other 3 members, I save bandages, and it usually heals me up to full or very close to where I don't have to worry about myself. It's great. Group therapy allows me to heal all teammates for 8 health, and then if you factor in the 15%, 20% innate, the 15% from a medical expert, and then another 60% plus whatever upgrades bandages get, that 8 health jumps up, and a lot of times it can help top off anybody who's been nicked or lightly damaged. I mean, it really brings the team back up. It's a very strong card. And then I go ahead and I lose the ability to use offensive items, improve my revive speed by 225%, which is really strong. I like it, especially in the middle of combat. It allows you to save your defibs for when people actually get fully incapacitated. But what's important is the 20% reduced in-cap trauma, which couples on top of, life insurance? So that's, 35, and then I guess plus whatever is my innate. I don't know if it's like 20 or something. So it's like 40 or 45%, or rather, I'm sorry. I have trauma resistance. This is reduced in-cap trauma. So, my mistake. But nevertheless, you want to make sure that if people go down, it's not like they're crippled for the rest of the fight. That's why I combine these cards. If I'm Holly and the doc is not combining these cards, I know I feel it because I'm running with trauma resist card. But when I get down and then like in the middle of the level, I'm like dealing with like half max health, and I have to rely on like pain meds to give me a full health bar. It's because we're having a hard time with trauma resist. The cross trainers are, there are certain events that get really intense, and it's good just to have that stamina regen. So this is my second mobility card, and it's kind of like an all-arounder. And I went with movement speed, stamina, and stamina regen rather than some of the other ones like pure stamina or whatever, because basically I need, like, I'm not adding a lot of cards, so I need something that's a bit of a composite. She's not a mobility this is not a mobility deck for Doc. This is just enough so that she can sort of bob and weave and kind of outpace some things. It's not meant to, kite by any means, but it is meant for me to, like, when I have to move from area to area while, let's say, the team is fighting, I can do it independent of medical expert. Okay, medical professional finally gets put in here. So if the trauma damage reduction and trauma incapacitation resistance has been doing its job so far, I shouldn't have to worry too much. But if by now the team has been struggling, right? Now I have this ability, after I've quick revived them a bunch of times, or if I use a defib on them, that defib is going to restore life. And if once this starts happening and we have a better economy, I can start letting them know, and then they can start packing med kits rather than bandages or pain meds, because the med kits will allow me to also restore life if they go down. So they'll be passing me that, and then I'll be bringing back their I'll be restoring their trauma damage that's been lost. Their max health, I'll be restoring that. Fanny pack +1 support inventory with all the cards that are making meds last longer. It means we might start to run into a surplus. So there are some other cards that will allow me to hold even more. Actually, on Nightmare, the amount of damage that's incoming, usually I don't need more than one slot, because I'm constantly like healing people up to full, and in some cases I'm over healing. Like I'm just healing for the sake of like not wasting something, because I'm about to move on, and like we're not going to come back for that bandage or something like that. So this extra support inventory allows me to kind of like just hold on to more heals and distribute those heals over time, right? And Miraculous Recovery has a 25% chance to have 100% increase effect. So in the event that I like revive someone and then heal them a little bit, it's going to heal them double. Or if I if I use a pain med on somebody, it's gonna like really work. Or if I use like a med kit on somebody and then the group heal activates, and then everybody was hurting, sometimes boom, it like brings everybody back to full. It's a little bit RNG, right? But sometimes you're in the thick of it, and everybody's hurting, and then everybody's health is back, and it's nice. It's nice. I wanted to use this with the other pain med bonuses, like to damage and to like stamina regen and weapon swap speed and all that stuff. There's like 2 cards that when you use pain meds, it's sort of like a battle medication. Like it makes people's ranged weapons work better, and it makes them do more damage. So for a while I had those cards in, but that was before I had trauma resistance, and I forget what else, and I think fanny pack. And I found that just working in Nightmare, I needed those more. And the pain meds, I mean, that's just bonus. Like I wanted to compensate for me not doing that much damage, but honestly, like a really strong melee build and a really strong range build, they have so many cards that make them strong that that's not really necessary. I think if I were to I think there are different ways to do a support build. Maybe like with Mom, for example, I could try something that is more about, I don't know, some like basically differently oriented, so maybe it's about what happens when people get incapacitated, the kind of buffs that hit the team that allow them to rally, or something like that. And maybe then I'll use pain meds, and maybe I'll stack it so that there's more economy and I can afford more pain meds, and I'll have more slots for pain meds, something like that. Like I'll reorient the support deck so that she can make use of them. Because I think that'd be fun to buff people like that. But in this case, I drop them, but I still use Miraculous Recovery for that chance of like a really big blooming heal that can come at a critical moment. And it's a 1 out of 4 chance, so it's not bad. And then the last one was Experience EMT, and I used to have this a lot earlier in the deck, where it gives people 10% to max health and stamina regen. Now it's at the end of the deck, because by now I am pretty strong. This is just giving people a little bit more wiggle room, and when I really need it is usually towards the end. It's that little edge that gives people the ability to like push more or whatever for those event style fights that usually at the end of like in those missions that require your whole deck, for example. I don't need that so much. I feel like I need a lot of this other stuff more. The having scavenger early, the move speed early for those skirmishes, money early, and that extra team life, these are pretty important just to getting her off the ground. And then the reduced in-cap trauma, right? And then as soon as I could set up this 60% healing efficiency and 50% use speed, she was pretty much ready to go. In terms of like maximizing heals for the team, keeping their trauma down, being able to move a little fast when things get hairy, and supporting the team with like extra life, be able to find more meds. Everything after that just kind of like supports that first half of the deck. Excuse me. So so that is the deck that I got my Zwat with Doc. Um, with this is the deck, and I can say that at the end of it, at the end of all 4 chapters in Nightmare, I no longer because I've been tweaking this the entire time, taking things out, putting them back in, swapping some stuff. I do not feel at this moment that um I feel like this is the best balance that I could come up with for my playstyle that seems to work as long as I am primarily focused on heals, on triage, on chasing people around and trying to get those heals up. And in a lot of cases, especially with teams that play together and that focus on their roles, it has been very effective at helping the team pull through. Some of the downsides of playing with Doc across the entire campaign is that when I'm looking at heals, I multitasking is difficult. So sometimes, and when you're not focusing on like taking out Ridden because you're immediately like distracted by healing, sometimes you're like my response time to Ridden in my periphery is a little slower, and sometimes like teams have wanted me to do the stumble work, with a sniper, and usually I enjoy this, and I've done this before, but in in really delicate situations where it's like really important, um, in really delicate situations where it's like really important to heal, I can't process that. Like there's a Reeker coming around the corner, and I have to stumble him, but this guy's a hit or two away, and I need to bring him up. That moment, I'm more healer, and sometimes the team could really need someone to stumble that Reeker, and this is it's confusing because if I let that guy go down, it could cascade where we're all overwhelmed. So it's uh, uh, you know this isn't like I can like function in both roles. That's not to say that I can't defend myself. I mean, you take whatever weapon people aren't using to try to fill in the group, but you hope that whoever's like offense will compensate, and for like range or whatever, that they'll be strong enough to do what they need to do, and then you could really focus on just keeping them alive, keeping melee alive. Um, so so basically, I'm not there trying to like handle everything that's in front of us. I am there to support, but also keep tabs on, when people make mistakes, when they're running, when they're backpedaling from something that they stepped into by accident. When I'm letting other people know, don't res that person, let me res them because my res is going to be stronger and faster. Like I have to remind people to like give me their meds sometimes. It's very much like I'm a specialist, let me do that job, you guys do the other job. And um and that sometimes also means that if like melee, like Holly goes down, and I'm the one to res, I'm not gonna res right away. Not if Holly's at the door. I'll wait till the horde finishes and then I'll res. So I kind of control when it's best to bring somebody up rather than to bring them up just so they can get smashed back down. You know what I'm saying? Or like I'll see the opportunity. As when people have made the most use of me, they've let me sort of like acknowledge and say, okay, you take the med station, because they know I'm doing the work, right? So I'll say, okay, this guy take the med station, or give me the bandages, or let me do the res. And then other stuff I just keep silent and I just keep a watch on the team and everything. So that's the gist. And I feel really comfortable, and I'm glad that I've earned it. I feel like I've earned that spot off it. It's been a big struggle, and hopefully this helps. Um, so yeah, that's it. And we'll be doing this again. I think the next Carly I want to rock. I'm sorry. The next Zwat outfit I want to unlock is Carly's. Because I want to learn a little bit about speed and a little bit about tracking um, where mutations spawn from, where sleepers spawn. Basically, I feel like working with Carly over time is going to give me much better situational awareness for every cleaner that comes afterwards. That's what I'm hoping. So, anyway, that's my spiel on Doc and on healing through nightmare difficulty. And yeah, that's it. I'm Dangerlander 1K. You're on Twitch.tv, signing off. Next time we're back and Back for Blood is to start all over again with the new cleaner. All right. Hopefully you've enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Peace out.